As gamblers, we have an innate ability, an innate tendency, and a concerning proficiency in lying. And quite often that's lying to our loved ones, lying to our friends, lying to those around us, including our employer, and basically concealing our gambling. Worst of all, though, we have a tendency to lie to ourselves, and there was a lie I used to tell myself quite frequently when I was gambling, and I was doing it for fun. It was the fact that I enjoyed playing these games, I enjoyed playing the online slots, and this turned out to be a lie. I'd convinced myself that I could play low stakes because I wasn't doing it for the money, I wasn't doing it for the gambling element, I was doing it because I enjoyed playing the games, and I was lying. It's only when I actually played online slots, I thought, in my early days of recovery, and I wouldn't recommend doing this, I thought what I'd do is I'd play the slot games in free play online, because I thought, well, hopefully that will scratch the itch, because I'd convinced myself that that's why I was playing them. It was a form of entertainment. Now, when you extract the monetary element, the risk element from online gambling, you suddenly realise quite how dull online slots are, and in fact a lot of forms of gambling are. Roulette, blackjack. When you extract the monetary factor, you suddenly realise that these games are actually quite dull. I mean, slots, for example, it's just a random number generator. Roulette, you might as well go onto random.org and put in a number between 0 and 36 and keep pushing the button until it comes in with your number. Oh, hey, you won, well done to you. Now, gambling games before online casinos have been around for eons. I remember I had a fruit machine simulator on a Sinclair Spectrum. Now, if you don't know what a Sinclair Spectrum is, then congratulations to you. You're not old. But I did, and that was probably, 35 years ago, possibly, something like that. And there's always been, slot machine, fruit machine, casino game, Vegas simulator type games on a number of computer and video game platforms. And very few of them have had any form of commercial success, and the reason being is once you play them for a short period of time, you realise that without the monetary factor, without that risk factor, which is the factor that releases the dopamine, the endorphins, that may get you involved, you really are just watching a visual representation of a random number generator, which is what slots are, which is what video roulette and what have you is. It's just a random number. So I'd lied to myself, and I'd convinced myself that I wanted to play these games, for fun, because that's what I was doing. And if you're telling yourself the same thing, then why are you playing these slot games, which are inherently incredibly basic games, like I say, rather than playing more in-depth, more interesting RPG games or other multiplayer online video games, which have huge amounts of players and are far more in-depth and far more interesting and far more enjoyable and have a competitive element. Now, I will say that there are elements of some forms of gambling which can be enjoyable without the monetary factor involved. For example, if I was invited to a fun poker night at a friend's house and we played just with chips with no money involved whatsoever, then I would I'd get involved in that. I would enjoy that, and the reason being is it becomes a competitive game, not dissimilar to playing any other form of card game or Monopoly, even something like that. You're playing with a competitive edge. And you're playing with a little bit of skill, and it makes it interesting, and you want to win purely for the sake of winning without the monetary factor. But by and large, if you strip away money from the vast majority of forms of gambling, you're left with nothing of any interest, nothing of any engagement or depth or complexity or skill. It's what I don't understand with fun casinos. I've been to wedding receptions, I've been to a couple of corporate events, those sorts of things where they have these fun casinos. And if you're not familiar with the format of a fun casino, it's normally a couple of tables, normally a roulette table and a blackjack table, where you bet fun chips, just fake money, and you have to try and win as much fake money as you can. And unless there's sort of prizes or any kind of, anything in store for the winner or the person who collects the most fake money, then you very quickly get bored and you find you're betting your whole fake bankroll on one number of roulette, because to be honest, you've frankly had enough and you'd rather be off at the bar having a chat with your mates or doing whatever, trying to pull the bridesmaids. So if you're like me, and I was for many, many years, and I always say with these videos, I'm never coming at these things from a preachy angle. I'm never sort of saying you're wrong because you're doing this. I'm saying I was wrong because I was doing this. I was convincing myself. I was leading myself to believe, well, yeah, I'm only playing small stakes, and the reason I'm playing small stakes is because, you know, it's because I was enjoying the games and I wanted to play the games rather than the gambling element. It was only when that was stripped away that I realised what a fallacy that was. Now, what I would certainly say is, and I would suggest not doing, is going away after watching this video and trying this for yourself and actually going onto the online casinos and playing in demo mode. And the reason I wouldn't say this is because it's a very, very thin line between being there, playing things in fun mode, and then just depositing and just playing for small stakes because it's fun, remember? It breaks down so many barriers, it puts you so much in harm's way, it's not worth the risk. There's a good chance, like me, you play it and go, actually, yeah, he's right, this is really boring. But there's also a chance you go, well, actually, you know, I'll have a little punt. And also, you could, one or two things could happen if you play in fun mode. You could win and go, okay, well, you know, I'll have a little go and maybe I might be able to replicate that in real mode. Or the old gambler's fallacy, you lose and you think, well, it must be due because it's been on a bit of a losing run, so it must be due. Now, there is this conspiracy or theory going around quite regularly that online slots and what have you play better in fun mode. My belief is that they don't. I don't think they would necessarily manufacture the games that way. I think personally it's psychological. I think if you're playing an online slot and you're not actually losing money, you're not feeling the loss, then you don't register the loss in the same way. You will only register the wins because they are notable. But regardless of that, even with that aside, don't do it. Don't try this theory out for yourself, but take my word for it. Gambling is not fun. Gambling games, slot games, roulette, they're not fun games. The only peak in engagement comes from the dopamine. It comes from, you know, the chemicals, because you're gambling and because there is a risk involved. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Cheers.